Welcome to No Question About That. I'm Ed, today with Paul, back to the old days of Rantcast, and I don't know about you, I don't know if I have the energy to rant much about this one.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to this week's Frankcast. And on today's show, we will be so sad. I think this is our third losing European final together. So we did 2011.
2011.
No, we didn't do 09. We started the summer after that because it was after Ronaldo left that we started. So we did 2011 and then we did the Solskjaer Europa League final and now this one. And that makes our United having an overall losing record in European finals in our lifetime now, because we were at exactly 50-50, I worked out, unless I have forgotten one, because we won 2 Champions League, lost 2, won 1 Europa League, and now we're at lost 2 for that. So,
well, of all the
there was also the good one in 91.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
we're still at 50-50, lifetime even split. Sorry to all the young people.
Well, that's right. Of all the European finals United have played in my lifetime, obviously don't remember 68, but of all of them, none were as flat as this. We were flat in 09, and that's disappointing because I felt we could beat Barcelona. 2011, that was proper Messi, Busquets, Pedro, all of Xavi, all of it. Like a great side, just couldn't really get into it apart from that one moment. Solskjaer's losing final a couple of years ago. It's disappointing.
See that look in your eyes, which is like, Ma, I don't remember a single thing about that game.
It was a bad game because Ollie didn't make a change till 100 minutes in, and you're like screaming at him. But I don't think it's as flat as this. Like, no. Nothing, absolutely nothing happened, and I feel like especially people on social media throwing brickbats at Ruben like all this time, and I generally speaking have had the general sense that he's only 6 months into the job. Yes, we would have liked more progress. He didn't want to take it on for reasons. He's very much a systems coach. He doesn't have the players he wants. All right, we can take the pain. He said the storm is coming. It's very, very, very hard to defend the big calls tonight because I think he got them all wrong. And then you're looking for a coach to recognize the mistakes and make a change, right? And we didn't get a change until 70 minutes in. Wasted 25 minutes of that second half playing the ball backwards and sideways and backwards and sideways. And I mean, you couldn't tell the difference between that performance from United then and a Louis van Gaal performance. I mean, it was completely that. Just feeding off scraps, like barely a good chance United created all game. And it's not just Amorim, like all the players are horrendous. I mean, Ahmad was flat. Bruno, extremely wasteful, especially as it got to desperate times and he was throwing the Hail Marys in. No one else performed. The risk he took with Mount didn't pay off. Just hugely, hugely disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ahmad had a really bright first half and he was kind of cutting in and out and weaving in and out, and he flashed the one across the goal. And I think Maguire had a pretty good game until he went up front and got involved in a way that really suited Spurs. Yeah, I mean, I agree about Bruno. He was, basically, a few people asked me before the game, like, who did I think would win? And of course, the answer is I've got no idea who's going to win this game because you have no idea what's going to show up. But if our match winners show up, I think we had the balance of match winners in this game. And essentially, this looked like a final between the 16th and 17th best teams in the Premier League. And it was decided by an absolutely rubbish, scrappy goal, which I have to say, I feel like an idiot, basically, because that's not what I thought would happen. Because of the nature of the big wins along the way, these kind of remarkable turnarounds of games and these moments of like real serious quality that have punctuated the Europa League campaign in the way that they haven't touched a Premier League campaign. Like, we've been really good for periods of this Europa League campaign, not consistently, but there's been moments, and I kind of thought with the FA Cup win under their belts, the fact that they've been in lots of big games, all this kind of thing, maybe they'll show up in the way that they have done in these crucial moments in this campaign. But almost the exact opposite happened. And I was thinking, if I was a Spurs fan, on 75 minutes, I'd have been going nuts. Like, what are we doing? Surely, like, why are we just trying to But turns out just letting United swing punches wildly at no one is a perfectly effective strategy at this point.
Yeah. Well, the whole game, right? So this was not Ange ball as we know it. This was the Ange ball that they've been performing in the Europa League, where they've become more cautious in order to just get through these games and let their general quality at Europa League standards sort of stand out, right? And they got a fairly favourable draw along the way. And when we talked on the tactics show beforehand, I'd kind of mulled whether I thought we'd see Ange ball and whether they would be a bit more prosaic, especially with the injuries they had and the type of midfield that they were going to put up 3 defensive-minded players in the middle of the park there. And I think you saw that quite early on in the game. They were very, very happy to just sit there and soak up United's pressure. United played it sideways across their back line, and then there was nothing, because the Amorim system is to create overloads, especially in wide areas. And, the classic Amorim goal is the overload, the cutback, third man run, or the striker scores a goal. Unfortunately, we weren't able to make much of those positions. They're two very good fullbacks in Pedro Porro and Udogie. Spurs, so it's their strength matching up against, in theory, our system, but it's not really a strength. And then a very static forward in there. I don't, on balance, I thought, okay, Mount's probably earned the chance. The challenge was the sacrifices that he made, the sacrifices for ground coverage, and where's with Ugarte not playing, right? You can call him a one-dimensional player. He is. And
you should have mentioned.
Yeah, I should have mentioned. Never mentioned that one before. But especially with Casemiro, who's been better when he's been given more freedom. And so you've changed those roles around. You've asked him to do the defensive coverage, Bruno to create from much, much deeper, and the penetration that we get from Garnacho, the frustrating penetration that we get from him, absent. And in the end, like, Ange got these things right. I'm only saying Ange because I can't say Postecoglou. I can, He got the course right. Amorim couldn't or didn't change it until it was way, way, way too late. His first 3 changes were like for likes.
Yeah,
didn't change the system.
I was really excited about Amorim for a number of reasons, and I think talking the talk is extraordinarily important. Like, I think it's almost an underrated aspect of leadership at that level in football, but it isn't the only thing. So it's been super disappointing. It seems to me really I'm slightly split on this, because when he took Casemiro off against Bilbao and Casemiro gave him the hug that he gave him, there was something in that moment where you go, oh, what is going on? Like, there is some connection between him and these players. There's something happening here that is profound and deeply motivational, and they're all in something together. But the flip side is the football has been absolutely atrocious. And like you say, it would appear from a kind of outsider's perspective that he's made a lot of big calls wrong. There's been a lot of this, and I was thinking about the Solskjaer Europa League final during the second half, because he definitely you could say should have just brought Garnacho on for Mount early in the second half when you see how things are going. But it's a problem because it's a team, you can understand why he's rendered inactive, because if something's going to happen, it's going to happen because Ahmad, Bruno, Mount, probably just those 3 really, Casemiro, a moment emerges from one of those players. There's just a little touch around the corner or something. And there was a number of times in the game where that looked like it might be just about to happen. I mentioned, Ahmad on the right looked like he was just about to make things happen quite a lot. There was a number of like neat touches in the midfield that kind of changed the direction of the ball quickly, and the ball was moved around quite quickly quite a lot of the time. But it was always that next ball. So is it that Amorim is just getting all of this totally wrong? Is it that the quality of player has degraded so far now at United that, it'd be interesting to look at the Europa League final starting 11 under Solskjaer and make the comparison of quality. But it is absolutely extraordinary. Friend of the show, Sam Perry from the Great Cricketer said just after the game that it is a kind of well-worn point, but it's a $1 billion enterprise with a kind of fancy Portuguese tactico at the helm, and they're just knocking it up to Harry Maguire for the last 10 minutes. It's like, what else is there?
Well, look at that last 10 minutes, right? You had all the players in the wrong position. So you had Bruno as the quarterback, like basically in the back two at the back, as far away from the goal as it could possibly happen. He's the guy who's going to be the change maker, right? You had, and the other two change makers are Garnacho at that point and Ahmad, right? On the left-hand side, they made this kind of slightly strange switch in which Dorgu came inside and Shaw pushed on. You could say, okay, they're trying to get two players there to make the connections together. Almost worked with the one Garnacho shot. On the right-hand side, he waited a very long time to pull Mazraoui off. I think he's a fabulous footballer, Mazraoui, but wing-back is his worst position. I mean, he had a good game away in Bilbao, but he's not a player who's physical enough to get up and down the whole game. That's why he came off, right? It was very, very late at that point, and it's a fullback for a fullback. I looked at that and I was like, oh, Jesus. Because at that point, plan B was knocking it straight. Yeah. Knocking it straight to Harry and hoping that something would come of a scrap. Nearly did, because Vicario, who was a good keeper, I don't know how he missed that one. Like, it's straight at him. All he has to do is catch it, and it hit him in the face.
The Shaw header, the Rasmus header, which was cleared off the line, and that's kind of the moment where you're going like, this is bad omens. Like because you're looking at it in real time, it kind of looked like, well, of course he's cleared it off the line, but then you watch the slow motion replay. It's like, actually, he very nearly didn't. It's a game of fine margins. Do you think? I mean, it feels. I don't know. We should talk about the game, I guess, before getting into what it all means. Because the answer to what it all means is God knows, right? Like, it seems really bad. Financially, that's obviously really bad.
Yeah. Let's leave that a little bit. Let's talk about the football a bit.
The complete toothlessness is, I mean, it's just a massive issue, isn't it?
Yeah. We sacrificed 3 attacking players, and there was very good reasons for all of those sacrifices. And it's not like 90% of United fans weren't saying Anthony's shit anyway, so we sacrificed him. He's gone away and has played a blinder at Betis.
That's so weird. That's so weird, by the way. I do not understand how that's possible, but here we are.
Neither do I, but you see him stick one into the top corner against Dave from 30 yards. You're like, yeah. They love him there. So, I mean, at least he's going to have to move on. They'll make a deal somewhere for him. We'll sacrifice him and Sancho and Rashford, all for, you could make an argument, legitimate reasons. Like, Sancho didn't want to be at the club. As he failed, Amorim they couldn't see eye to eye, whatever that was, right? So it's left the squad extremely toothless. You've got Rasmus Højlund, who can't score. Xerxes, who's not a goal scorer. Many talents, but not there. And Chido Obi, who's 16-year-old and can't even be registered in the Europa League. So, yeah, we were desperately, desperately short. And so you can say, yeah, what other choices he had? I think the choice for this game was to play with a false 9 in there or just someone else up front. I didn't see 13 touches Rasmus had in that first half. 8 touches, 3 passes, 8 touches. I didn't see his final number, but it won't be many. He did have that header, I suppose, but that's hope, right? You're just hoping by hope that some of these players who are completely toothless would do something. And then the second thing you're looking for, if the players are going to be the players they've been all season, which is completely toothless, generally, especially against Premier League sides, is that you change something. And that change something didn't come until 80 minutes when they stuck Harry Maguire up front. Yeah, and I mean, if I was picking the team, which would be a very bad idea for all sorts of reasons, I'd have played Cobby from the start as a false 9. Like, that's what I would have done from the start. But also, the chances of me sending Marcus Rashford to Aston Villa would have been really, really slim. The other attacking player that was sacrificed was Scott McTominay, who is essentially like tearing it up as an attacking midfielder in the team that is quite possibly going to win Serie A. Maybe that says something about the quality of Serie A, but this game, I mean,
feels like a bit of a basic thing to say, but feels like this game would have benefited from a bit of Scott McTominay energy late on.
I mean, it certainly would have. Yeah, I'm not sure he'd have been getting a lot of games just because Amorim doesn't play with a player that plays in that position, the kind of free 8. Or yeah, he probably wouldn't be playing games because we've seen where Amorim doesn't want a player in a position, he doesn't use him. So
yeah,
and so yeah, I mean, we definitely could have lost that goal scoring, and we definitely could have done with that goal scoring energy. It's not just this one game where the failure has come. This has been a decade-long journey, and the fact that we made a Europa League final at all is something to be lauded, isn't it? That we had the hope of having the accelerant of Champions League money and the status and all of that comes with it, amidst like one bad, disastrous decision after another at this club. Specifically in the transfer market, but also in terms of player and squad management and contracts and football manager decisions and all of that. Never should have let Ollie go. Clearly, obviously, that's where it all went wrong. Obviously. But yeah, I mean, it will come to a head this summer. It's going to be, I would be unbelievably shocked if Amorim makes it past November, December. And not that I don't think there's something about him, because I think there probably is. As you said, the communication thing. He built a very good side at Sporting that's gone on to win the league again this season.
He was absolutely beloved there as well, which is always a bit of a something.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, generally speaking, I haven't been looking at his team over these weeks where they've been pretty toothless generally and going, I think it's all on him. I've seen things that I think have been improving at United, and their patterns have become more complex. He said this. He said it's easier to do the defensive side first and then the attacking side. He has a system and methodology. Maybe I'm buying into something without evidence there, because there hasn't been a lot of it, has there? But he won't get the players he wants this summer, like just without sales. And the sales are going to be two, if they happen, that people... Let's just assume Marcus, Sancho and Anthony go. Break even.
It's really difficult for me to sit here with you after all these years
and
say, yes, let's assume Marcus Rashford's leaving the club. I get it, though. I do get it, really, all joking aside.
Yeah. And it won't be a lot of money. I mean, the 40 million Aston Villa have signed up for very much depends on them winning next weekend, right? And other results going their way.
Are we going to throw it? Are we chucking it for 40 mil? Is that what's happening? Mind you, to be fair, we could just try really, really hard and not win. So that'd be fine.
Exactly. Yeah. He won't be in that team scoring the goal against us. That would be a lot. Yeah.
Dennis Law style to almost relegate us.
I know. It'll be net even on Sancho, and Anthony won't help the squad at all in terms of PSR. So the two sales, if Ruben is to get the players he wants, if you're saying we have 100 million in cash to spend plus sales, are going to be Kobe Manu and Alejandro Garnacho, right? And the thing we've made, one thing selling academy players, right? The mistake this club has made over and over and over again in the last 10 years is just ship out a player and bring in a more expensive one who's worse quality over and over and over again. And you could probably point to 50 players in the last 10 years where that has been true. So,
yeah. I mean, it's it's funny, right? Hello everyone, my F-Ball. If you don't remember me, this is the sort of thing I do. I'm a bummer, sorry. But in the end, it is always genuinely important. It takes 15 seconds to think about things that really matter versus things that don't really matter. Right? It's so, at the end of the game, I was sad. And then almost immediately, a kind of overwhelming wave of perspective arrives, and you go, it is, in its essence, literally only a game. Literally, that's what it is. It is, or at least it's literally a game. Maybe you take the only out of it. It's literally a game. And all of the hope that and collective endeavor and dream and care and passion and emotion that everyone invests in it is the only thing it means. It's what we put into it. That's the only thing that any of this means, right? It's because we choose to give this meaning that it has meaning. And that is beautiful and provides us with this outlet from all these absolutely horrific things that are going on all the time around us. Like, one of the reasons it would have been glorious for United to win tonight is for us lot to have a moment of like intense, pure, joyful escapism, the kind that Crystal Palace fans have just experienced. That beautiful quote from their manager, it's like so nice. It's like the only reason any of this means anything or whatever. It's like, it was beautiful. And sorry to say this here and now, but Tottenham fans haven't won a trophy since 2008. Like, they're having, right this second as we record this, being all sad, they're all having a lovely time, you know. And that's the tribalism that says like, oh no, it's us that should win and they should lose. It's like, yeah. But in the end, but within the context of this silly thing that we put our hearts into, it's a real shame that they're so rubbish. Yeah. Isn't it? Like, all isn't that just a shame?
You saved yourself at the end there. You saved yourself. Because in a moment, for a moment there, I was like, Paul's on the wrong side of history here. It's, no bueno.
Always have been, always will be.
Of course, it is just a game and it matters. It's the most important, meaningless thing that we care about. But we do care about it. And we will continue to care about it. And when United are playing Wrexham in the Championship in a year's time, or 18 months' time.
No, Wrexham will go back to back and get straight up. They'll leapfrog us.
Yeah. I mean, look, we can go away from the game and I can talk about all the dark stuff because there's even darker stuff in the world of football than Manchester United being shit, of course. But like, we were awfully bad, terribly, shockingly flat today.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they didn't try, but there was nothing they could do to impact the game. Like, every single thing that we had today was a scrap of some kind. They create almost no good chances that were through the system. Like, probably only that Alejandro Garnacho shot where he cuts inside from that moment and shoots.
The Luke Shaw header. Yeah. But everything else was like half or something, maybe an if, a but, and that you can kind of take ifs and buts and halves and maybes when you're playing a great side, right? So right throughout the 90s, late 90s, when we were like trying to be good in Europe, and there were all those games where there were ifs and buts and maybes and if onlys until we finally did it, right? And the 3 finals in 4 years, you could kind of accept losing to a great Barcelona side. The 2009 was harder than the 2011, right? You don't want to go into a final and going, but it's an if and but and maybe against lads, it's Spurs. Against this Spurs, this pathetic Spurs side. And I'm not saying we're not pathetic. We're absolutely 100% pathetic. Yeah, we're more pathetic than them. Like, we just proved it.
Pathetic Spurs side who they'll sack Ange Postecoglou because they want to move forward from here, right? And he will be gone after the final game next weekend. And they will do absolutely nothing in the Champions League, and it won't be transformational for that club because they are generally where they are. They should be about the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th best side in the country. They're 10 places below that.
Yeah, probably not the 17th best side in the country.
And in an ultra-competitive league, that's about beautiful stadium and all of that, but historically, for United, this really would have been transformational. Like, we'd be having a conversation going, okay, is it Gyökeres? Is it someone else? Look, you can show a path forward. You can show, you could go, oh, sure, it's a flash in the pan. We might just, Champions League 1 year, we're going to get knocked out in the group. Very hard to get knocked out in this group stage.
But possible, and we would give it a damn good try, I bet.
City gave it a damn good try this year, didn't they? Yeah. But it was a path forward. You could go, okay, we haven't seen much to give us evidence that Amorim is going to be the man, but if we're going to believe in him, that's 2 players, maybe more than 2 players, actually, you can bring in. with the changes that were already likely, with the freebies that are going and the players they'll sell. With the freebies and the players are going to sell at 7, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see another couple. You'd be going, okay, it's a big change, which is financed by being in the Champions League with the 65 million you're guaranteed, plus all the ticket sales, the sponsorship losses that you don't make, and it's hard not to get 10 games, honestly, when you look at the crap that will be in there. And you're going, so it's probably 100 million now. Like, what? You can't even sell the project to players because there's very little guarantee you could go, well, the year after this. Can you see this team without many changes making the top 4 or 5? Don't see it. There's no other path, right?
No.
So we're talking 2 years to be back in the Champions League. I mean, if reports are true, that even Liam Delap from a relegated team is going, yeah, I need to be in the Champions League. Fucking relegated team. It's like, sorry, I'm going squeaky here, but it's like, no, mate, I'm not. And like the cachet of Manchester United goes a long way. Everyone wants to play for United, but they also, like, they're not dumb.
They want to win stuff, right?
They want to win stuff, and they want to go, well, how long is it until you're good again? Is it 2, 3, 4 years? I have a short career. Like, maybe I can't waste my career here.
Lenny Yoro, right? Like, how long does Lenny Yoro stick around, for example, who you'd say had been like one of the best signings in the what we are laughably calling the post-Fergie era, which should kind of like the post-Fergie eon is what we should be calling it at this point.
Remind me, what's longer, eon, epoch, or era? Epoch's longer than an era, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I think era's the shortest of those, and eon is the longest.
Right. And an epoch is glacial timelines, yeah.
I think that might be eon, but I could be wrong. Anyway, let's just call it the post-Fergie epoch. And this is like... I mean, the way forward thing, I think, is well, it's clearly like better if we'd won this game. This is the most nervous I've been for a game since the Jose Europa League final, the one that you went to where it beat Ajax, because that felt like a moment where another season in the Europa League is kind of catastrophic, and we really need that season in the Champions. Well, we need to be in the Champions League to do the stuff that's required. And I was thinking, as I sat here, like, well, that didn't all pan out very well, but we did sort of finish second in the league, like a couple of times in the subsequent seasons, and now second in the league feels like a lifetime ago. It feels like a daydream, and you're thinking, this is, when Amorim came in, because a lot of me has thought for a long time that what they really, really, really need to do is get the managerial appointment right. Because that's the thing that has been so obviously missing. And generally speaking, the teams that have been successful in the post-Ferguson epoch, even including City, have got the managerial appointment right. Because City's success is obviously predicated on all the things it's predicated on. But the reason it's been the level of success it's been is that they hired Guardiola.
For sure. And Klopp's transformation at Liverpool, maybe Arteta is at Arsenal. I have more doubts about that one. Sure. I mean, absolutely. And that's the thing that I keep coming back to with Amorim going, I feel like he might be the right guy, right? Yeah. Because he's trying to get them to play a brand of football that is winning football. Now, you could go, and it might be sensible for him to go, which he won't do this, but you could go much more vertical, more defensively sound, high pressing, athletic, less about trying to get to the number of wins that would get you to win championships, and more Forest or Newcastle. Extremely vertical, a bit more basic, sound defensively first, feed off percentage chances, win more games, right? That would certainly, with this squad, you could certainly go, yeah, we can do that. You get rid of the powder puff players, bring in more athletes, younger players, athletes, you play that kind of football, and you get up your way, up to the edge of the European places, because it's hard not to when you have United's kind of budget and the talent that is there. He won't do that, which is one of the things that's extremely worrying. I'm not even advocating for it. I just don't know. I don't know the way out. Like, he's going to try and play his brand of football with the players that are not suited to it, or if he does bring the players that are suited to it, they're going to be highly risky younger players. And so that's what gets me super worried, and why this made this was so important. It's not Amorim's fault that previous regimes way overspent on crap players, and that in the era of PSL, you have to unwind that before you can go spend, and it's part of the reason why I started that finance show with Jamie, to try and explain these things in simple terms, because you still get people going, why aren't the club ambitious? Why aren't they just spending money? Yeah, they just bloody can't, because we blew 100 million on Anthony, and he's a 26 million pound a year cost, which is what you're asking someone else to take on. Like, there aren't a lot of footballers in world football that cost that much.
No, absolutely. And at the time when Anthony was signed, this is very basic. I've watched 0 minutes of Eredivisie football in the last 10 years, but we just looked at the numbers. When we're signing an attacking player from the Eredivisie who barely scores or assists for 100 million, what am I missing here? And you could broadly say that the thing I was missing is that Ten Hag liked it when they ran up and down a lot. Like, that's which is so. And we do not need to relitigate the last 10 years of basically mortgaging ourselves to whoever the manager was. Funnily enough, except Ole, who they never really mortgaged themselves to Ole, even though he's probably the one, because they didn't have to, because he was just like, you see all these like brilliant young lads, let's play them. And Martial and Rashford, and creating this energy and atmosphere and youth and making the best of the resources that you have. One of the things you cannot accuse Amorim of is making the best of the resources you have. Now, you could say this is because he is trying to build something better than can be built with the resources that he has, and he's basically trying to use this season as a free hit to say, well, the 60% of the squad that I want to keep are really going to know my style, and they'll be able to get the new players involved, and maybe that will turn out to be a masterstroke. But the budget suggests it won't, right? Because, I guess they're definitely going to sell Cobby, because Amorim doesn't even seem to like Cobby. Like, it's not, which is so strange to me.
It's a big red flag for me if you can't find a place in your system. You can't adapt your system to get a player like Cobby Mainoo in there. He'll go somewhere else and be excellent, right? And he won't be going to like Everton or Fulham or one of these teams that are much higher up in the table than us. But he would be a big money sale to a big team, because in a 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, where he's the extra man in that midfield, where he's not asked to be the deep six or the number 10, which is the only positions that Amorim will find for him. Right, he would be an excellent player, and his technical and small spaces skills really come to the fore. Garnacho's a slightly different one because of the nature of his contract. Obviously, we bought him on a youth contract with just the I forget what FIFA call it now, the friends and family commission that you have to pay, development commission, 250 grand. So whatever we get for him is profit you can spend now. It's not free money, because you still have to make that money back later. I've seen some big, like, if you sold him for 50 million, there's a bunch of people I've seen online who will go, oh, well, 5 times 50 million, because you could spend all of that right now. It's 250 million, let's go do it. Yeah, but it's just that extra 200 million in the next 4 years after that would be a major problem. But it would bring a player or two in right now, and he's probably the one that will be sacrificed. Now, the question I have is, if that money is being spent on Cunha and Delap or whoever, right? Or if Cunha and Delap they can pay for with cash, which has been the briefing, that they've got the cash to pay for those two, and then it's one or two others. Name your player, another number 10 or another central midfielder, presumably, or maybe even an attacking wingback, right? Yeah. You got to hope that they offer more, like, because otherwise it's the same mistake we've made forever, right? Which is the next player is the shiny one, the player that we're shipping out. It turns out to not be as bad as you thought they were.
It's a Moneyball problem, isn't it? It's like, what are you doing? What are the numbers saying? Are you getting what you told me the other day, 10 goals, 11 assists, or whatever it is from Garnacho?
Yeah.
Which in this United side,
Which in 50-odd games doesn't feel like loads, but in a bad United side is, and compared to younger players, it's pretty high, right? So, but he feels like the one that will be the sacrifice, most likely, not least because his team have been sniffing around because he has an opinion of himself that he should be a better team than this, and he should be a better team than this. We just hope it was United that was going to be the better team.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if we're looking down, not up, right, to find players, like... Because
well, then there's only 3 clubs we could choose from.
Yeah, not an awful lot of Leicester. I know that for sure.
I mean, if Jamie Vardy had done a job in this, he'd have probably been a lot better up front than Oyland this season.
Okay, can you imagine? It's ... Jamie Vardy.
You know, you were saying. I really enjoyed that. It took me a second, but I really enjoyed it. You know, you were saying that they're obviously, it's not that they're not trying, because that was the thing that was almost painful about this. You can't, there's no, like, there will be people that say, because there were always people that say they don't care, there's no passion. It's absolute nonsense. They cared so much. It was actually probably part of the problem. There was Bruno in particular, I'm sure feels just the weight of the world on his shoulders every time, and so feels he has to do something extraordinary over and over again, and particularly when he ends up playing deeper, the pressure on him to do something extraordinary grows and grows and grows.
And he shouldn't have been there, right? And you're right. He cannot help himself but hear a ball when he's doing that. I mean, I think a lot of the games this season when he's moved back to 8, he's played a much more conservative style of football, and he's obviously been trying to play as a number 8, and it's generally worked, and he's gotten to still manage to create and score goals and get into the right positions, and some brilliant performances this season. He's deservedly United's Player of the Year, the only choice by miles and miles and miles. Yeah, this was not great, and I'm not sure whether it was the coach asking him to be back there like as a quarterback trying to ping balls around, getting knocked down or charged down, and look, from a fan's perspective, looking at that, you're going, that is a disaster of a performance. I'm 100% sure there's something around that. Not that I'm mitigating, I'm not making excuses for Bruno. I'm like, why is he back there on the halfway line with 10 United players ahead of him? Mad.
And anyway, I mean, this is a thing me and you have talked about so many times over the years. Like, you're watching these people who are elite athletes, who have dedicated their entire lives for moments like this. They want to win this game much more than any fan wants them to win this game. However much we all want them to win this game, we haven't sacrificed our entire lives for them to win this game, and they have.
Do you know how many hours I've been podcasting about United?
Yes, well, that's true. But, the level of sacrifice made by the worst performing player in the United side today to get to this point is so spectacular. Like, most people just would not be prepared to do it. And of course, they're very well financially rewarded for it, which is, in and of itself, you could say, well, that's what your reward is for all that sacrifice. Fair enough. And you are expected to perform, right? That's your job, is to perform at that level in these moments. But I was watching the players who I would have considered to have the worst games out of everyone and been the most wobbly, and thinking, I don't even want to say who that is, because it's just like, what are we doing here? You international footballer who definitely knows what they're doing, had a bad game in a final. I know, and it feels churlish to harp on at them, of course, because we're just two cunts on the internet blabbing on a podcast, right? No, I'm fully aware of that, right? I have no right to judge them at all, other than we're just two people on the internet having an opinion. Definitely,
it's probably wrong. I don't claim any particular expertise other than I'm a fan who watches football, right? Anyone can do this, right?
Well. And nobody could do it as well as you, Ed. Everyone knows that.
Of course. Yeah. So, Jim, if you like that.
Oh yeah, this is my main note over this season's NQAT. If I was still here, the official style guide would be, we call him Ratcliffe. We ain't. There's no the peerage. We're giving credence to the honour system. Jimmy Anderson is the only exception I will give for this.
Yeah, fair enough. Big Sir Jim. That's his wallet.
Yeah. His list of absolutely criminal sins against the planet.
Oh, it goes without saying.
Yes.
That's a very long list, by the way.
Yeah.
Sure. Yes. And I mean, since you brought him up, I worry about what the next strategy from him is, because he's trying to do a thing in football which I don't think there's an example of, right? Which is not just the Moneyball will go buy younger players and try and, this is what Christopher, I always get it right, Christopher Vivell, that's what he's known for. Find younger players who will overperform their stats and undervalued, and this is what they're going to try and do with a lot of the signings they have this summer, right? It's not just that. They're trying to do a thing which is to cut their way to success. I don't see an example in world football that has ever been the case. Now, you could say they've ripped 45, 50 million pounds worth of costs out of the business. That is 450 people without a job. I hope, touch wood, many of them have found new employment. In fact, I know some of the better staff members will find employment at rivals, right? They're real humans. And the sacrifice there is so you can go spend that 50 million on the team, right? And then there's not far off that, it's going to be lost in wages of players who are leaving and departing. And yeah, he has got a big decision to make now, Sir Jim. This August, the 18-month lockout period ends. This is the point where the Glazers could go off and try and sell more shares. He has got a choice about whether he wants to buy those shares at the price that has been nominated, whether he wants to try and wrest control away from them. Like, is his heart in it when it's a bloody long road back from here? Like, and that accelerant of the Champions League is not going to be there now.
It's a longer road back than when he took over as well. And, people are so the thing you said, like, my objection to the sacking of all of these staff, first of all, is the kind of what would be perceived by loads of people as the kind of wishy-washy argument that's like, football clubs should not be run like normal businesses, and that includes their staffing. Their staffing should be community oriented. That's a ideological position, essentially. Like, we won 13 Premier League titles with a staff canteen. Like, so it doesn't seem to me that you have to get rid of the staff canteen for United to win the Premier League title again. And you could say, well, there's no other businesses in the world except like Google who give their staff free dinners, but there should be. This is that kind of argument. But even aside from the ideological argument, and this is something you've said a number of times, I've heard you say a number of times this season, which has really resonated with me, is like, that is not just staff are not just a cost line. Like, staff move the needle on income, that's who, and it's not just sales staff that move the needle on income. It's also support staff that move the needle on income, because
head of partnerships has been fired as well, and she's very well respected, and it's the leaders in those positions now. Yeah, absolutely. You're right. It's the support staff, it's the analysts. Part of the reason Ashworth left and has gone back to the FA is that he didn't want some of those staff on the football side to be reduced. It'll be the scouting staff that is reduced, like right across the board. Now, some of it you can replace with data. Not all of it you can, right? Data gets you Patrick Dorgu. Maybe he turns into a good player. And some of the younger players, maybe they turn into good players. Who knows? We've been a graveyard for talent for so long that I'm not betting on it. But they get views which turn into revenue, and they are the community staff, the people serving the dinner. And these are all people on normal wages, by the way. Right?
Yeah.
They're the people who do the data and the analytics. They're the people who should be producing great content coming out of MUTV and so on and so on and so on, right? So, I often heard this term, it's a bloated staff, and people repeated it all the time, right? People who have no idea, right? Bloat is relative to the performance that you deliver as an organization and a set of teams and individuals, right? It's entirely relative. I worked at an organization with 1,000 staff, about the same as United. We did a quarter of the revenue, right? Were we bloated? Yeah, probably, but that's what we were delivering, right? So it's all very relative. Now, if they think they can get the same performance from 550 staff, not 1,000, hey, good on them. Maybe they're going to make people work 16-hour days or whatever. It'll be Silicon Valley style.
But this is the thing, isn't it? Like, this is the kind of, like, and we're talking about macroeconomic policy since the 1970s, or microeconomic policy, I guess, since the 1970s. Certainly like business finance, where it's like cut, be lean, like that's the methodology. There's always this accusation that in the 70s in the public sector in England, there'd be 2 people for 1 job. Well, essentially, to run a functional organization, having worked in the public sector in England a lot, well after this time, and I live in a city which is literally bankrupt and not collecting the bins, like this is what happens when you don't have enough people, when you have 1 person for every role in an organization. When something happens to that 1 person, something really serious happens, like can happen, things fall through the cracks. It's like the people that do the typing, basically admin staff hardly exist in the world now because everyone's got a phone and a computer. But this does also mean that loads of people are spending a bunch of time wasting their time in terms of their kind of the finances. And it's fine if you're 25 and you've had a phone since you were 3, but probably not so great for the kind of 60-year-old people on your staff who would have real value and use, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just this idea that, lean is good, lean is mean. It isn't backed up by the world. Like this is not what we are all experiencing. Most people in their working lives could do with a few more staff around, there would be less stress, more productive.
And at United, it really depends. I mean, I haven't seen an audit of all the people who have left and their functions and roles. Some of them may have been nice to haves, right? So, and maybe there were too many staff in the normal course of business. You might do a strategic review and go, yeah, some of these teams are not what we need now. The world changes around you, right? So you update what you do, and that happens all of the time, right? Not all of it is because we're in a crisis. With United, it's because we're in a financial crisis, right? And the Ratcliffe and his team have looked at it and gone, okay, what are our routes to putting more money on the pitch? Well, there's nothing we can do on broadcast, right? There's something we can do on ticket prices. What will the market take in terms of like hiking up ticket prices? Bad team, like how much can you squeeze out of a stone or United fans? Like commercial, you're not gonna increase that by much, or if at all. In fact, you're fighting against the tide while you've got a bad team. We'll lose another 10 million off the Adidas contract next year, for example. Still don't have a training kit sponsor. Ineos may end up sponsoring that because there will be no one else, right? And then the other method is in the transfer market, right? So if it's not broadcast, it's not commercial, and it's not tickets that make the big difference, and so they've gone for cost cutting. The only other option is the transfer market.
Yeah.
Right. So there's nothing more to cut now. Right. They've done 2 waves. We thought there'd be 1, 2 waves of cuts. So what is it? Right. We're going to have much less to spend in the transfer market now, or you sell players. And that's the only path forward because everything else has been squeezed as much as it can. I don't think there's anything more to give unless they do a mid-season ticket price hike again.
Yeah. And this is the thing that's so unforgivable about it, because my kind of firm belief, I know people might not like it or whatever, my firm belief is that it would be better on balance for United to be less good and the tickets to be cheaper. Like that is a better state of the world than for United to be absolutely incredible but price out everyone who isn't earning an absolute fortune, because 66 quid for a match day ticket is an absolutely heartbreaking number. Yeah. In a country which is on its knees in terms of like disposable income for people who are on anything other than serious money.
Yeah.
So it's such an ugly situation, and it's part of the like desperation for us to win tonight isn't just escapism from how like painful it is to look at the world for 3 minutes. It's how painful it is to look at United and what they are and what they stand for and all that, and it kind of the Kobe Mainu imagery after the FA Cup final last year was so like life affirming and beautiful, and some little snapshot of what United are really about and should really be about. And we had the incredible remontada against Leon, which is again like that's what we are what we should be about. What like it is the history of the Manchester. Like that's football heritage. That is who we are, and what is going to be the kind of crumb? Because like, full disclosure, I have barely watched Man United in the league this season because almost every week, and it's partly been life circumstances, there's been a lot going on, but every weekend I'm getting to the point where, first of all, we just actually haven't been on telly that much because we've been doing a lot of 2:00 Sundays, but not the televised 2:00 Sundays.
And going to get a lot of 3:00 on Saturdays next year because there won't be any midweek games.
Yeah, and second of all, when they are on, it's like, after all the complexities of the week and et cetera, I'm going to sit here for 2 hours and watch. And I'm talking about like sitting on the couch watching the TV. This is not a major sacrifice. I'm not in a position at all to go to games at the moment. That would be just literally impossible for me. So that's the option. And I'm not even doing that. Like, could just do that on second screen on your phone for 2 hours. Like and even that feels like, I'd rather just watch a movie or something. And,
an unbelievable part-timer. Unbelievable. Shocking.
But it's
shocking that you would admit to that for the whole internet.
Proudly. Proudly, because
there will be many people like you in different circumstances. I understand why, especially right now, it would be hard for you to get out. And there'll be many people who cannot afford the high ticket prices, and doesn't matter how much they say, oh, that's only for a small percentage of tickets. There'll be many people who can't afford the 5% rise on their season ticket. There'll be many people who are looking for that escapism and cannot see light at the end of the tunnel right now. I'd be like, next season is not going to be good. We're not going to have very much football, right? So, and it's going to be really hard without going for a strategy of like burning a lot of players, like forcing them out for less than their real value and bringing in a lot of younger players. It's going to be very hard to make a big change, right? So, like, I can totally understand why a lot of fans would be like, fuck, like, is this worth it?
Yeah.
Is it worth the time and investment of energy, of emotions, of money, of family sacrifice and all of that?
Yeah.
Right. Sure.
Yeah, because like I said, it's not like I've chosen not to go to games. That option hasn't been available, but I have literally sat here and chosen not to watch United on telly. And this is like, almost everyone listening to this will have heard me having heard me having dedicated a serious chunk of my adult life to this stupid endeavor. Like, me and you did this every week for multiple times a week, often.
That's right. You can't give up now. It's right to die.
No, it's sunk cost fallacy. That is the definition of sunk cost fallacy. But the point being is, if someone like me is going, like, I'm just going to do something else instead, that is surely representative of a significant market segment. And I have to say, it isn't just the team on the pitch. Firstly, Ruben Amorim turning out to be maybe rubbish is so disappointing and heartbreaking, because he's like exactly the sort that could have got me back in, a smooth talker who seems to care about his players. Absolute sucker for that sort of thing. Secondly, the takeover stuff. Like, when I hear you, because I've listened to every episode of the Finance Show, and when I hear the two of you talking about it, like, it's hard not to just be angry that we're in this. And you did the Glazer anniversary show, which it's impossible not to be angry. It's the only appropriate response to what's happened. The only appropriate emotion in that is anger and sadness, because it's such a shame that this thing that so many people care about has been ruined for the sake of a family's individual wealth. That's all. Yeah. That's the only upside, is that a family got rich.
I mean, and they're already rich.
It was
their daddy's rich, and they live in Florida. Not a single alligator has come for them. Not one. Like, what?
And
yeah, I mean, it is absolutely anger-inducing, and of course we've been over it over and over and over again for the 20 years of the Glazer family. That I just never could have imagined like it could have got this. Well, actually, to be honest, I imagined even worse scenarios than this, but it turned out in a way that I did not exactly expect. It's slow death. I thought we might come to some big moment of we are running out of money. It's desperate. They called in the loans. The bank forces a sale of Old Trafford. All those scenarios were live. Like absolutely. I think people don't generally recognise what a massive risk was taken with the club, with this asset, and why did they do that? It wasn't their money.
Yeah. Right? So. And they put us in a position where the only choices were state ownership or someone like Ratcliffe. Now, there's an interesting conversation to be had about whether there were even any choices actually, and whether the choice was all smoke and mirrors for whatever reason.
Beyond impossible to tell.
Yeah, exactly.
And whether it was fake shake or there was some political disruption, which I suspect is what happened.
Yeah.
There was one choice. Right? He massively overpaid. He's not a particularly nice guy. Don't agree with his politics, and there's no evidence that he is a good football club owner. I mean, like zero.
And that's the thing. And because he's not the Glazers, there's this goodwill towards him, which is totally unearned, because this guy is like objectively, I mean, you could live in a completely different like socio-political cultural reality and believe something completely different than this, but this guy is sort of you could almost say he's just objectively not a good person. He's made his money from doing some of the worst things that anyone's doing to the planet. Like this is, has anybody come across the issue of microplastics in the world, for example? What's Jim Ratcliffe's main business? It's and the whole the Brexiteer thing is, and especially now when you look at what has happened, which was the thing that was literally obviously always going to happen in the advent of that, in the wake of that, that's the side this guy's on. And obviously there will literally be people listening to this that are on that side too, but most people on that side didn't have access to information because intense amounts of misinformation were spread constantly. But Ratcliffe's not in that camp. He's in the camp.
No, he's not, and he's not that active as a political figure. He could be even worse, of course. But I was always in this kind of strange situation where I kind of knew exactly what he was, and like, what is the worst thing here, right? Because not well known publicly, but the Glazer family do even worse stuff. Worse stuff on the political side of things. Like, as bad as it gets, with some of the worst actors on the planet. Now, so there's that. Well, there was this potential state ownership and sports washing. I could not stomach that. Like, not that I have anything against the Qatari people. I just always feel like I have to say this. And not anti-Arab or any of the kind of like surface level accusations you might get. Just wrong owners for this social institution that's 150 years old nearly. And we need better. Like, so for the choice for me of those three, Glazers, Ratcliffe, or the Qataris, Ratcliffe was the choice. Now, as it happens, the combination of Ratcliffe and the Glazers might be even worse, right? Because he doesn't have the full control to institute what he might want. Now, we don't know whether what he might actually want is better or worse than this. It could be like, hey, he's just got £800 million burning in his back pocket that he wants to use to pay down all the United's debt. Seems unlikely, given the way he's operated his companies.
Yeah.
But we're in an even worse position because it's like we're trapped in this like doom loop. Like, that is impossibly difficult to get out of. That debt is not being paid down. The new stadium is not being financed, like, without Champions League money. Like, it's not going to happen. And because there's no way of paying for it, right? Ratcliffe is not going to pay down the debt when he only owns 29%.
Literally
it's
working
29% of his club. That's all he owns.
If he pays down the debt, he's working in direct opposition to his own interests, right? Because then the value of the club goes up and it costs him more to buy the rest of it.
Exactly, right? So he's not going to do it. I mean, he made a small concession. Well, in fact, I guess the Glazers made a small concession. They apparently demanded the cash investment. it's interesting when it's reported like that. They demanded it, they needed it because the option was more loans. The other option was more loans. And when Ratcliffe, with some hyperbole, says we were going to go bust, it was hyperbole. Like, it got to the point where he put enough money in that they could borrow more, but he would have been borrowing more, right? And so the Glazers, the business model run out on them. Like, it doesn't stack up in this scenario. If you can't push the levers or pull the levers of financial levers any further, right? So they had to do that, but we're locked in this scenario when they won't leave and he can't force them to sell anymore. Maybe they do leave. That would be awesome. Maybe. Like, it was written in a way that suggested that would happen, but, well, at least he had the options there, the sales agreement, but we don't know that. I can't see anything dramatic happening on that front just yet. I do think in the next 18 months we'll see. Maybe they're going to do what they've always done, like wait until the last possible moment, like do exactly what's right for them. So they'll sell it at the moment they get the most money, or they're desperate for cash, which is every time they've sold, it's because some of the family members were desperate for the cash. It's very hard to see a path out of this. Would we have a different view if we'd won tonight and we were feeling rosy about a great victory? Yes, slightly, yeah. Sure, the path out would still be hard, but we'd have £100 million of additional revenue coming in next season, and the status of that, which would make it an easier sell for players. Now, what is there? It's a brand name. But some of these players were fucking 8 years old when we were last good.
Yeah, I mean, very, very, very literally. Yeah, I mean, you could definitely, I mean, a 16-year-old was born in 2009. So, they probably don't remember Robbie Van Persie. That's, it's not great, that side of things. Ed sent a message to the old Rankcast WhatsApp group, by the way, on the day before David Beckham's birthday, saying, does anyone want to feel old? David Beckham turns 50 tomorrow. And me and Tom both replied, you turn 50 this year. It's not David Beckham being 50 that makes us old. It's you being 50 that makes us old.
Sure. The fact that we are old is what makes us old.
Yeah, that's what does it. It's It very much would appear that United are not going to be good again for a very, 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 very long time at this point, because the barriers and blockers they're not just our own failings, they're also the successes of other clubs. Even today, right? Like, one of the reasons that United weren't able to impose anything on the game is that Tottenham were efficient at doing the thing that they were doing. We were Ajax, they were us, right? If you take it back to that, although at least we did have some actual attacking intent and ability in that game, and they barely showed any in this. But, if I remember rightly, we scored one at the beginning, one at the end of that game, and the rest of it was just sat there with Jose in it up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's sure. Scrappy goal, of course. We scored one of them at least.
Yeah, the bouncy one, right? Like, this is so. They were effective in this game as much as we were ineffective. The thing they were doing was more simple than the thing we were trying to do, because they got their noses in front. The path to success now also features, first of all, like Newcastle, which is a massive thing. Then you have the fact that Liverpool are resurgent and have created something organically on, like, it's a horrible thing to say. Even I'm like iffy about saying this, but they're the model, right? Like, that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to do what they've just successfully done. And City are going to be, even after Guardiola goes, in terms of the money. And then you have a Premier League which has learned so much and has so much money in it that the mid-table position, there's the reason that we're 16th, right? This exact United side would have finished 8th 5 years ago, probably. And because Bournemouth can outbid AC Milan for a player, right? Yeah. And
the bottom team in the Premier League will make more money out of broadcast than the 4th place side in Spain. I mean, there's a rising smartness in the industry in general. Like, the smarter people are getting the jobs and running the departments, and there's much less, Yeah, and which is what we got to hope now, because it's not going to be us swinging our big dick in the summer to get the best players through financial muscle. That hasn't worked over the last 10 years anyway. It will be us trying to moneyball it up, and we'll find out whether Wilcox and Vivell and Barada and their new leaner system can do that. I mean, it's partly on us, and it's also partly on other teams not raking us over the coals because they know we're desperate, which they may well do for players we want to get rid of.
Because then what we're doing is essentially, like, to be maybe slightly reductive, but probably kind of not, is instead of competing with City and Newcastle and Liverpool, we're competing with your Brightons and your Brentfords, your Brentfords and your Brightons. Like, these are the teams that we're competing with, and we have one major operating advantage against them, which is we can say, do you want to come play at Old Trafford in front of a bunch of absolutely rabid fans, and everywhere you go for the rest of your life, you'll be recognized, acknowledged. Your own personal kind of commercial upside is way enhanced. So we've got that operating advantage, but Brighton and Brentford have got the operating advantage that they don't get raked over the coals for the money. So
no, and they're seen as a stepping stone, which I'm not sure that is exactly where United should be as a club, or, or would be able to get to. Yeah, for sure. And also, there's a downside to that fame and notoriety of being at United. If they're going to be smarter about contracts and not just pay people to be here, pay them a premium because we're not in the Champions League, which they won't do again, I don't think, then the downside of the fame and notoriety is the abuse you're going to get. You're going to get some twat with an iPhone who hangs around outside Carrington and tries to give you coaching tips.
Yeah.
Everyone knows who that guy is. By the way, he was on he was not you. He was on TNT Sports beforehand. And if you could have told me one, I mean, there's plenty of, probably a whole bunch of people listening to this or watching this game. Well, you're that person as well. We don't believe it here. Some guy tweeted at me today going, the guy you've been filleting all season, Bruno Fernandes, is the guy who blew it today. I was like, interesting take. But not the best representative of United TNT. Anyway.
Well, they've got a history of that. They put us in the build-up to Derby once.
That's nonsense. You shouldn't do that, yeah. Or listen to any of this. God, this has been depressing, and the 3 people who are still listening or watching all the way through, congratulations on listening to an hour and 10 minutes of us.
I haven't
moaning. But it was always going to be thus, wasn't it?
I haven't even got any slots available, so I can't even offer any. I'm fully booked. I don't even have any room on my books to take anyone on.
What you need to do is clone yourself for, betterhelp.ai or whatever. Not sponsored by them.
No, please. Oh, I guess it's inevitable that you will be at some point through a pre-recorded ad, but my God. Anyway, that's another conversation for another day.
Hey, to be honest, I mean, we could take all your sessions, we could record them all, we could train a model on it. Paul, the avatar, Paul, you could, for the good of humanity, Paul, you could scale yourself up. We could stick you in the United app, so when we've lost, it will just pop up with the button and say, talk to AI Paul. How do you feel about and we can scream into the void.
Yeah, because what humanity needs is less deep personal interrelationship and more interrelationship with technology. The thing is, this season has been as bad as it gets. This is the worst season. I mean, I think probably literally the worst season in our lifetimes. And almost all of us will remember it for Cobby, Maguire. Oh my God, everyone's lost their mind. These incredible moments of collective joy and relief and escape, and even the kind of camaraderie of commiseration that happens around. It's why community is just so profoundly important. It's amazing to have people to celebrate joy with, and it's a relief to have people to commiserate with. So as bad as it gets, and it's going to be rubbish, there's still value and merit in it, right? It'll still send your spirit soaring in moments, because that's why everyone's in it, right?
There'll be some moments. There are going to be fewer because we won't have those. I mean, maybe there are FA Cup games we can get behind. We won't have the European games to hang on to. And maybe there are. And maybe it'll be a bunch of young players that come into the team and the squad, and we run much leaner as a squad, and people get behind those young players because it's like it's hope for the future, isn't it?
Yeah,
you're like, that's why people like young players. You're like, could be something great.
Yeah. That's why people like signings in general, right? That's why people, whatever that means in the broad spectrum in terms of like numbers and eyeballs, people prefer transfers to football because it's the promise of what could be good. That's the thing that people really, 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 really like. Even like I've seen so much stuff about who United are going to sign this summer, and you're just thinking like, have we not? Like Lucy with the football, talking about old man references. It's just like, no, it's going to be different this time. We'll sign players that will make a difference this time, even though the last 10 years is just. But even in the worst period in United's recent history, certainly in their obviously like the post 92 history, there's still been. We still beat City in an FA Cup final. We still won a Europa League and 2 League Cups. And, it's like there'll be madness along the way. There'll be things to love. There'll be Ahmad's goal against Liverpool in the FA Cup. There'll be, there'll be stuff.
There will be stuff. And you got to hang on to that because...
And you'll be here with an ever-increasing cast of people.
Still blabbing about football. Mind you, it's going to be hard to do midweek stuff now. I mean, maybe we don't talk about the football, we talk about something else.
It's probably good for podcast growth optimization to do fewer episodes and make them more of an event. But that's...
maybe. Yeah. We kind of accidentally did so much content, so yeah.
It's amazing, though. Like, it's incredible to watch. And one thing that I find really funny about the whole thing, not United, just this podcast, if you'll spare us a moment of self-indulgence, is when I came up with the idea for this show, what you are doing now was exactly the idea that I had for this show. It wasn't me and you do a podcast for more than a decade. It was you do a podcast that I'm on occasionally and get to listen to while you talk to other people. That's been the dream all along.
Hey, maybe it can move to phase 3, which is other people do the talking. And I just slowly sink into the pub.
Are you gonna? Do you reckon there's a world in which there could be an NQAT episode, which was 2 other people?
I've suggested it, and then like everyone's like, "Oh no, I couldn't do that."
But and none of them want to talk to each other.
I mean, honestly, I don't mind. I'm all up for that.
Yeah. Yep. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I don't know how much each of them know each other. Some of them know each other personally. Yeah. But yeah. All right, well, we will be back in the week with some more context around this and thinking about how we move forward from here and some transfer speculation. And yes, who knows what exactly the schedule will be on the podcasting. You may be right, fewer and better than lots, but it's all been pretty good anyway.
The quality doesn't dip. I just think it's really funny that you kept saying we ain't going to be here. You are going to be here.
We'll see you for the Christmas special, Paul.
Yeah, man, I look forward to it.
Someone got in touch and said, hey, maybe you could have everyone on for the season review. I feel like doing a Sir Jim and cancelling the season review. Like, this lot aren't worth it.
It's what merit is there? Actually, genuinely, what merit is there? It's like, unless you're going to have fun doing it, like this is the season review. It was unbelievably bad, except for like a total of about an hour and a half, which was weirdly.
Really, that was compressed into 6 minutes at the end of the Lyon game.
Yeah. And what is really weird about this, it's a bit like last season, which was so bad. Ten Hag should definitely have got the Van Gaal treatment, for sure. Should have been sacked on the way up the Wembley stairs. But that has one of the most memorable games in United's history in it, that season. And this season, this absolutely abominable season, has 6 of the most memorable minutes of a lifetime in which we've seen them win 2 Champions Leagues, a treble. Like, I'm not saying this was as good as the treble. It was not as good as the treble, but blimey, it was really good when Harry Maguire scored the header, wasn't it? Like, it was really good.
It was. all in the service of nothing.
Yeah, I mean,
but in the moment, in the
end, all part of the bleak, ever-expanding universe, which is eventually going to burn out on it in a heat death. But in that moment, it was really good.
All right, that's it from the Rankcast Cinematic Universe for this week, and we'll catch you again soon. Thank you, Paul.
Love you, man.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Maybe this was some catharsis. Maybe. Keep well, everyone. Bye now.
See you soon.